Hey guys, it's Synik25 here, bringing you another YuGiOh deck profile on my Constellar deck that I've used in a bunch of past duels. And I have a pretty interesting build here for you guys, and hope you guys enjoy it. So getting right into it, we have one BLS, and I know what you guys are thinking. Cynic, what is BLS doing in a Constellar deck? And to that I say, Tour Guide. And I know I haven't seen any Constellar deck run Tour Guide, but I think it runs pretty well. Tour Guide can go in a lot of decks, and I think it splashes pretty well in Constellars, especially since you get that dark in the deck, and you can get your BLS out, and BLS is always dirty. No one likes to see BLS on the field, so yeah, I think BLS works pretty well. I'm also running one Thunder King, and this is pretty much just for more control. It's pretty standard, actually, in many Constellar decks, especially in any deck that doesn't really add as many cards from the deck to the hand. Like, I only have one with Reinforcement. Also, Sheet Hand, but not too many. And being able to stop special summons is always nice. So we have 3 costs here. Pretty much the LeBron James of this deck. It's definitely probably the best Constellar. It manipulates levels. It makes your Pallades play. It can make your Omega play. Make any 4 or 5, really. So, it's a good card. 3 Pollux again, heart and soul of this deck. Standard play is really just Pollux, cost, and get out Pallades or 4, anything you want, really. I'm only running 2 Algidi. So I used to run 3, and I just recently trimmed it down to 2 because I felt like 3 was a little bit clunky. And it's also chainable at max C, so like you summon Algidi and they can chain max C to it, and that makes you sad because you don't want to have 2 just random Constellars on the field. You want to XZ with them. So your opponent ends up going plus off Algidi. So it's kind of bad. I hate how it can get chained like that, but it's still good at 2. I mean, gets cards from the hand to the field, which you need. Running 3 Sombre. This card I actually used to run at 2. Now I'm running at 3. I just think it runs pretty well. You can get a plus off on it. It's the Monster Reborn engine of the deck, and it just keeps the deck going because one weakness of Constellars is that they burn through their hand pretty quickly. Because you're constantly going from the hand to the field play with Pollux and costs, and it runs you dry. So any card that allows you to replenish what you used in the grave and, well, reuse it tends to be pretty good in Constellars. So that's why I run this thing at 3. Obviously, the one honest, pretty self-explanatory. I mentioned Tour Guide before. I think it works pretty well. It's nice to just go for that quick XYZ play. I mean, Zen Mains is nothing to joke. It's nothing to laugh about. And I also have here Leviair the Sea Dragon, which also works really well in this deck. So in order to actually reborn things with Sombre, you need to banish something from the grave. So whenever I banish a card, it's pretty much dead. But fortunately with Tour Guide, I can go straight into Leviair and reuse the things that I banished through Sombre. So that works pretty well. Also, if by the off chance I end up going for Leviair first and then use its effect to get Tour Guide in the grave, bring back a Constellar, then I can go for BLS, get BLS out, BLS banishes, and the next turn I can get back whatever BLS banishes. But that's kind of when the stars align. Usually that doesn't happen. It's mainly just me bringing back what Sombre banished. Running 2 Shitran here. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Shitran, yeah. But it's the Stratos of the deck. It searches. I didn't like it before, and I'm slowly warming up to it. My biggest beef with it is its low attack and its level, which is only 3, which makes it pretty incongruent with the rest of the deck. So if I get it out with Pollux, I can't really do anything with it. The only time I can really end up XZing with it is with cost, but that doesn't happen that often. So yeah, I've tried Constellar Lioness, which is pretty much Shetran's partner, but I just found it kind of clunky, and honestly I like Tour Guide better, so decided not to put that in. I'm running 2 Max C. Max C in this format is pretty good, especially against dragons, and for a deck that runs through its hand pretty quickly, you want to have cards that can replenish your hand, and Max C is one of those cards. So again, running 1 Reinforcement of the Army, pretty standard, just gets out Pollux. 1 Mind Control because it's awesome in Constellar decks. Any XYZ deck in general just really benefits from Mind Control, especially ones that make 4s. So this has helped me a lot, being able to just steal my opponent's monster, XZ with it, just do shenanigans. Dark Hole, staple. Dark Hole and Torrential themselves work pretty well in this deck with Omega, because I could just Dark Hole, then use Omega's effect, prevent myself from getting destroyed, and just destroy my opponent. So that's pretty cool. Running 2 Duality. Now, I've really been flip-flopping on whether I want Duality in the deck because I don't like being slowed down, but I feel like Constellars is a deck where you can really get away with just, waiting a turn of not special summoning because it's pretty balanced. I have a lot of back row, so I really want a Pot of Duality because of the consistency, and it definitely does help. You can get the cards you need. It's nice also when you get Tour Guide in one of the 3 cards because obviously I can't search Tour Guide through anything and there's only 2 in the deck, so I don't draw it that much, but when I see it in Pot of Duality, I try to end up taking it because it unlocks VLS. So 2 Mystical. I've ran 3, but I feel like 3 gets a little bit clunky. So I feel like 2 is all you need, really, especially with Omega. You really don't need 3 MST, to be honest. Book of Moon, just really good again. Book of Moon really wins games. Now, these 2 cards, I've really switched around. I've tried many different combinations right here for these 2 cards. I've tried 2 Constellar Starcradle. I've tried 2 Pot of Duplicity. I've tried the whole bear thing with Tenki. I've tried pretty much everything in these 2 slots and ended up going with Constellar Star Chart, mainly because I really want that draw power. And in early game, if you get this card and you start XZing, it's really broken. You just get a lot of advantage. It helps you keep momentum. And I just think in general, it works pretty well with the deck, especially since I'm also running 2 XYZ Reborn. So if I have this on the field, I XYZ Reborn Pallades, for instance, I can actually proc off this, which is awesome. So really, anything that helps me keep momentum and keep card value in my hand is always a good thing in Constellar deck, because as I mentioned before, they run through their card value very quickly. So anything that helps you keep momentum really works well on Constellars. But Constellar Starcradle has worked for me. It's been nice to just get things from the grave, but I feel like it's kind of redundant with Sombre, which is why I ended up taking it out. And also the fact that you can't conduct your battle phase is kind of meh. Pot of Duplicity was pretty good also, but I actually liked having those things in the grave for Sombre, so wasn't too keen on it. I think I've kept Tenki in longer. Tenki was actually in this deck from its conception, and I thought the bear Tenki kind of mix with Constellars was pretty good, and it did work. It was really good with consistency. I was able to get cost out pretty much, first turn almost every duel. So it definitely helped with consistency, but it was getting to the point though where I would get cost a little bit too much, and I wouldn't have anything to pair with cost like Pollux or Getty. So yeah, especially like mid to late game, like you don't want to draw Tenki, and it's like, oh, I get another cost, but I don't really need cost right now. So I felt like having a Constellar Star Chart to keep your momentum up and keep your hand relatively strong is a good thing. So yeah, as I said, running 2 XYZ Reborn, I feel like it's pretty good in this deck. I mean, any XYZ deck in general. It's nice to be able to proc off Constellar Star Chart or just get back M7, Pallades, really anything, and just keep reusing it instead of having to use the resources to make it. 1 Bottomless staple, 2 Mirror Force, 1 Torrential, 1 Compulse, 2 Fiendish, and 1 Solemn Warning to round out the trap. So pretty heavy back row. In terms of XYZs, I'm running Gaia Dragon, the Thunder Charger. Just works well. Any 5s, really, 6, M7. M7's pretty broken. Yeah, I mean, you can reuse cards from your grave. You can compulse things. It's just really useful. But definitely the best XYZ in your deck, aside from Pallades. Run Tiras. I usually don't go into this card too much, but when I do, it's pretty solid. Can't be destroyed by card effects, which is always nice. But Pallades is really, I guess you can say, the heart of this deck. He's probably the most made XE I go into, especially with the cost. Pollux play, you can get your Pallades out. You have that quick play Compulse, which is great. Volcasaurus has really got me out of a lot of jams. Just the destruction's nice, the burn's nice. It's just great. Utopia, I've made actually quite often. When I can't make Pallades or can't even make Omega, for instance, sometimes I go into Utopia. Like there's been a few times where I've had like Pollux on the field, I've mind controlled their 4, and I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna go for Utopia. And if I have Honest in my hand, it works well with Honest. Finally, as for the last Constellars, I'm running Precept. So it's just it's your beater. It gains 1,000 attack in the damage step, so it's kind of like a mini Honest for your Constellars. 2 Omega. 2 Omega is great in this format. So any really heavy trap format, Omega really shines. So I go into this quite often, actually. I know a lot of people go for first turn Pallades, but I actually like going for first turn Omega occasionally, because especially when your opponent has like 5 or 6 cards in their hand, it's likely that one of them, or at least a few of them, are cards they could destroy, like Dark Hole and Mirror Force, any of those things. And Pallades can't stop that, but Omega can. So a few times I actually like going for first turn Omega just to prevent myself from getting Dark Hold, and then next turn go for the Pallades play, and now I can protect Pallades from Dark Hole or Mirror Force, and actually just keep going from there. So But it's a toss-up. You know, I occasionally go for first turn Pallades, occasionally go for a Mega. Just, I feel it out. Um, Also have Paladynamo, just great in any light deck. It negates your opponent's monster's effect, reduces their attack by 0, and you can draw a card when this card gets destroyed. So it's just all around good in this deck. Maestroke, staple, Cowboy, staple. And as I talked about before, I'm running Leviair. Works well with Tour Guide, so if I banish things through Sombre, I have Tour Guide, make Tour Guide, go for the Leviair, bring back whatever Sombre I banished, and just keep reusing things from there. It's pretty efficient. And finally, running one wind-up Zen main. So if I don't want to go for the Leviair play, I can always go for the Zen mains play. Now, finally, my side deck. This isn't a real side deck at all. These are just other cards that I was thinking about putting in the deck. I've tried Cyber Dragon. There's one point I even had Cyber Dragon at 3, and that was a bad idea because it's really only good, in my opinion, in the beginning of the duel. Because once you're kind of in mid-late game, your opponent has, it just doesn't work out as well because you usually have some monsters on the field, and you can't really reap the effect of Cyber Dragon. It's just sitting dead in your hand. So it didn't work out for me. Same with Ghost Ship. Again, like I said before, I was running the bear tanky version of Constellars, and actually for the longest time, and I still think it's pretty solid. Don't get me wrong. If you think Tour Guide's stupid, Tour Guide and BLS, feel free to go straight back into bear tanky. It works well, but for me at least, gonna stay away from it. Violent Prism, I was thinking about putting some tuners in this deck, get some synchros going, but just didn't really work. I had Effect Valor, which I think is actually decent just to keep in the side deck in general, but didn't really work out too well. I thought there was better spots, especially since I already have 2 Fiendish. I was running Evil Storm Ouroboros as a rank 4 that requires 3, but very rarely did I ever have the opportunity where I want to go for this card because I'd rather just go for Pallades or Omega, so I decided to take it out. Diamond Direwolf was also a card that I've considered in the deck, but I just don't have any room for it. So, I mean, I can't even think of what I'd take out. Maybe Maestroke, but just never really had too many options where I felt like I'd want to go for Direwolf. I know I discussed this card before, Constellar Star Cradle. It's just nice to replenish. It can definitely work. I've swapped it out with Star Charts so many times you wouldn't believe, and it's pretty efficient. It keeps the deck going, and it's a good alternative. Bioduplicity as well just keeps draw power going, which is nice. But I already have that with Max C, and I have the consistency with Duality, so I don't feel like I need this. I discussed Tenki. Beckoning Light is something I recently put in the side deck. I haven't really tried it out in the main deck yet, but I've known a few Constellar decks which used it effectively, and it can work well. Let's say you have 2 costs in your hand, or maybe 2 costs and a Thunder King Ryo, and you just can't make any XZ play. You can go straight for the Beckoning Light, throw these in the grave, and then bring back a better combo. Like instead of these 3, you can bring back a Pollux, a Cost, and I don't know, maybe a Sombre. So, and that's a significantly better hand. So it can mix up what you have in your hand, in your grave, and help you choose what you need to get a better hand. So I've considered it. I might even put it in. We'll see. I've tried Vanity's Emptiness, but I'm not a huge fan, honestly, of lockdown decks, especially Constellar lockdown decks. I just don't really like it. I don't know, it just feels dirty locking my opponent down with Vanities, but I know some Constellar decks have used it effectively, and it can work very well, but that's not the kind of style I like to play, so I decided against it. I've had XYZ reflect in this deck for a while. It definitely worked well to protect my XYZ plays, but I felt like too often it was a dead draw, especially if I didn't have any XEs on the field, and it just wouldn't help me, so I decided to actually take it out. But yeah, so that is my Constellar deck. I like Constellars a lot. I'm growing fond of them. I like how they play. I like the whole manipulating levels thing with Pallades. They have tons of XE monsters, and it definitely doesn't feel like a one-trick pony. I know last format which ran Heavy Storm, Constellars were just like Pallades, 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 Pallades. But now with Heavy Storm gone, and people running more back row, it's been really diversifying the kinds of XEs I've been going for, like Omega. I've been going for Precept occasionally. I go for just about all of these. Like, I can't say there's one XYZ in this deck that I don't really use that much. Maybe Tyrus, because for a 5, it's like, the ladies is just a little bit better, but occasionally I do get into Tyrus. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this Constellar deck. I like it a lot. You're probably going to see it in the future. And as always, like, subscribe, and take care.